farmers and chefs are very similar. The hours are just ludicrous. And if you really tally it up and say, right, take your work ethic and take your hours you're willing to work a week and apply that in any other industry, you're going to be earning really good money. People kind of need to sort of see what it's like, even spend a day with a farmer, and on a lovely sunny day in July, go on a really crap day, go on a muddy, horrible, rainy on a Monday, and be like, he's got to still do that job. And think, right, now argue the fact that Jersey Royals are such an amount, and you think, do you understand the process and to get them to your plate? They want to feed us. So it's like, why would we not want to support these two industries to say, you want to provide us with local produce that's healthy, we know where it's come from, it's traceability. You know, you're going to be here to support us if there's another outbreak of COVID or we can't get the boats in, there's going to be massive sourcing of food issues, which there was. Everyone, you know, is under pressure with the rising cost of everything. You know, nobody's making the kind of anywhere near the money they used to because they're having to swallow so much of the cost. They can't pass it all on. Because I think if they did, I think people are already shocked. I mean, if they knew the real rise of the cost, it would be, you know, you'd be doubling the menu items, you know, and you just can't do that. And we don't do it as well. So the whole industry as a whole is taking it on the chin a little bit and just weathering the storm. There's no tricks, there's no anything. It is what it is. And I think, you know, that's important, that people trust you as people, you know, and I think that's something we would never want to lose. I think there's no idea that me and Catherine could retire because it's, you know, Paul and Catherine from Homefields. It's like, we are what Homefields is. So the idea of, you know, it's never going to be for sale. It's we see ourselves as custodians of Homefields.
Paul Conway from Homefields. Welcome to Hospitality Insights.
Thanks for having me.
No, great to have you. And I'm actually looking forward to this because I've been looking for this conversation for a long time, having someone that specializes in something which you guys are fruits and veg. And also we're going to talk about your history of over 50 years, you know, beginning with the farming and then moving into wholesales. I think it's quite interesting. But also when you began, which must be how many years ago, roughly?
So it was 1969, the farm was started.
But then you yourself.
Oh, myself?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
No, it's all good.
5 years ago. I
5 years
aboard,
ago. So when you started 5 years ago, have you had someone questioning, you know, your actions, being like, man, what are you doing? You know, why are you not trying to find a 9-to-5 job? You know, because we were just talking earlier, you waking up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, sure, you know, there should be easier ways in life. So how did you get into it?
The reason I got into it is because it's my wife's family business. So she's the third generation of people. So it's her grandfather that started it. Her dad then came on board, worked with his father. And then my wife, Catherine, about 12 years ago. And then we just started having children. It got really, really busy with the wholesale and a decision had to be made. We both had our own businesses. She was running Homefields and I was a freelance designer and illustrator. And really one of the two really I had to give. It was just getting so big. So yeah. I think as a company, we knew that together we'd work well together, hopefully anyway. And we do now know. It was always a gamble working with your other half. But we knew we could do something good with it, and we knew we could do some, you know, good because of the local kind of farmers we work with every day, and kind of being an integral part of our community. So it was kind of a no-brainer, really.
When was the decision made, you know, to move from farming, which I think, you know, the previous generations were doing? You still have land, from what I'm getting. You just, there are other people working it, but you're working a lot more on distribution and making restaurants happy. You know, you get the farmers coming to you with the products, and you are like a reseller, I guess, in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it kind of works?
That would be how it works. I mean, there was never a point where farming stopped and then the kind of wholesale started. It was more that Catherine's dad was the predominant father, and he saw that really the way the market was going. So what he was getting requests. So I think he would start by going to France. So when you'd go to France, he'd bring some stuff over and they'd say, right, as well as your onions and your potatoes, can you get me this and this and this? And it would be little things extra. And then before you know it, it just grew. And when Trevor, my father-in-law, retired, the wholesale was really in full swing, because what he was then doing is sort of letting all the land to people like Jersey Royal Company and different farmers. So they were growing for him. So he was running the wholesale. when my wife Catherine took on Homefields, it was really meant to be a temporary thing. It was because Trevor had never had a holiday. And he just said, look, if you can cover it as my daughter, all his other kids were away in the UK mainly, or were busy at school. If you can cover it, I would go on my first major holiday, which is a cruise, which he's obsessed with cruising now. So she came on board about 12 years ago just to cover the holiday, and the rest is history. Never left. You know?
And now you almost like looking for somebody else to cover you.
I know. Well, that's it. I mean, we've got a really great team now, but that's the kind of first time we've really felt that we don't feel guilty to leave them, because it has always been so busy. And we're really structured it in a way now where me and Catherine, you know, with children, it's important for us to have a break and make sure we get away and, you know, also have a balanced life, as we always do with our staff as well. You know, I think that's kind of a predominant thing with us. It's not just work. It's, you know, you work hard, but you want to also see your family and live your life.
No, absolutely. But talking about stuff, and it's something that you touched now on, are you in the same situation as the rest of the hospitality, like restaurants, takeaways, and so on, with having issues not finding stuff or not retaining stuff? Because obviously it's a demanding job. If, let's say, you wake up at 4, I'm sure most of your employees are probably around that. They might not be at 4, but surely, you know, they'll be quite early. Some of them early, some of them slightly more late, but still a very early job by the looks of it.
It is early. We are very lucky to have a large proportion of people that have been with us for 20, 30 years.
Wow.
They've been here since the beginning, and they started on the farm and they've grown with the business. You know, they've helped shape it. It's kind of, so it's really a family kind of place. We know everybody very well. We've struggled with staff. The main thing we found is having rolling adverts out continuously, that people don't want to do this sort of job anymore. And, you know, understandably, and it's very difficult. The wages are competitive, but, you know, the honest truth is you can earn the same money quite easily and then get up at 9 o'clock rather than 4. So why would you come and do this? It suits a particular type of person that either has a second job, wants to basically start early. We finish at 1 o'clock, then they can go and do another job. You know, it suits a lot of people and used to do that. But we've now turned, because we're part of the Farmers Union, to get Filipino workers over. And that's been a game changer for us. That's really helped, because there was a couple of summers where the pressure was really on us because we just could not get staff. So now with a number of guys from the Philippines who are amazing, you know, really come in, really grateful to be here, just want to work the hours. And I think there's never a kitchen that I go into that I don't see some form of you know.
It changed a lot, right?
Massive. I mean,
because we're just talking. We're just talking the other episode, or like a few episodes back, actually, about how everything changed from like a few years back. Like even when I came on the island, I'm talking 11 years ago, it was mainly Romanian, Polish, Portuguese, let's say, and then you have new nuances every here and there, but that was mainly the standard, you know, in kitchens and most of these jobs. But now you see that it's mainly Africa, it's Asia, you know, it's just expanded so much, which I think is good in a way, because, you know, if you have people that want to do the job and are, you know, if you can't find anyone locally, what are you going to do? Close the business?
I know. I think what I saw in my short time here is you had a lot of people working very hard, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, a lot of people unfortunately got laid off, or there was just no work. Restaurants were closed, so they were forced to find other jobs. And I think what happened to a lot of people, especially people that started the industry young, and in the meantime had children, had started having families, started to kind of think, I'd like a bit of work-life balance. Then they were forced to get another job. And then when COVID was over and we could all go back, they were like, well, I don't want to go back, because I like my Saturday nights. Yeah. And then, you know, I don't want to go back to working every evening, the pressure that it is. You know, I may either lose money or may on the same money, because, you know, farmers and chefs are very similar. There's a big portion of what you do it for is the passion. You know, so you're not just there for the money, because chefs are not the highest paid people in the world, you know, and what they go through is just crazy. So there has to be a passion to drive you. Otherwise, you know, why would you be there? You'd be crazy. So I think a lot of people left for that reason. And I think what has happened now is to fill the gap, because there was literally just gaps. You know, I'm sure you're the same. I saw lots of friends just like putting adverts up, just saying like, you know, cash now to come in and cover this Saturday just to help out. And it was like, there was no one, places having to close because of staff's issues. So the links had to be made, with the different communities, and kind of, I know GRA and Jersey Hospitality have kind of got their own links as well. And then the Farmers Union has links with the Philippines. So those links had to be made. But then that's how communities first came over. I know the Portuguese were brought over here to help with the farming, and then they stay and they bring their culture and their food and then enrich the island, And then now it's like, Portuguese culture is such part of our life. And then I think now I'd say you've got a lot of Romanians in the kitchens. It's predominantly, for me, a massive proportion of really good, Romanian chefs. I don't know if it is a specific thing in Romania, if it's a massive kind of career or...
Yeah, I guess it became quite popular, I would say, with all these like MasterChef and all those like TV shows where, you have like each one of them competing, trying to do their own version of either MasterChef or whether Hell's Kitchen or kind of variations of these, So it's almost like it's a trend now. It's kind of cool now being a chef. To a degree. I mean, you're all depending at which level you do it, because even here, if you're doing at high level, I guess you probably seen slightly better. I guess it all depends, but yeah, there are actually quite a lot of good chefs. You're right, and I know a few here that made it all the way to the top, which is impressive, because I remember when I came here, and we're talking 11 years ago, I don't think there were more than 1-2 Romanian head chefs, and they're everywhere. It's just, it shows that if you put enough effort into it, you're going to get there and you're going to get to the top. So yeah, I guess it's probably the same situation in your case. If you're doing your job, and it's good that you found the right people for the job, whether you're getting them from Africa or all the way from Philippines, you need people that are, it's hard probably to be passionate all the time, especially with these hard hours, but it's probably a combination. You want to earn money for your family, because most of them probably send money back home, and also have a bit of fun as well, because if you have people that work there for like 20 something years, I'm sure that you must be doing something good.
I hope so. Yeah.
It's a good sign, right? I mean, when you see that, when you see people staying in a company for that long, sure, you can't be that big of a prick, right?
I'd hope not. I mean, Catherine and myself are very lucky, where I suppose what we pride ourselves on is kind of trying to treat people with respect first, really, People that work at Homefields, I don't want to call them employees, because that kind of feels like it reduces them. We know them all personally, we all exchange Christmas presents, and it isn't because it's just like, oh, right, well, this is what you do. It's everybody knows everybody. And, I think there is an element, I think obviously there's wages are involved. It's really important, but also what we try and do is a massive thing. If everybody wants to go home for the summer, that's the main thing mainly. So we try and make that possible. And really, and as a business, you're looking at think that's a nightmare. Every holiday in hospitality should be in the quiet times. I always think of it as like, it's like a chef asking for every Saturday night off. It's like, no, you cannot have time between July and September. But generally, most of our employees will take at least 2 to 3 weeks off in that time, because all they care about is going home, spending their time with their family. And it's like, well, if we, preach that family and balance is important, then we have to practice it as well. And we have to think, well, you know what? We've got enough staff, we're going to cover. And I think that type of kind of fairness and loyalty pays back to us. And that's why we've got such fiercely loyal employees that, do feel passionate. It's just getting new people that seem to be through the door is very difficult. I know it's not just us. I know the whole of hospitality, because it's such a, our game's the same as hospitality in restaurants. It's such a tough game. It's not for the faint-hearted, and more people from the younger generations especially are questioning, well, I don't really want to work that hard. And if I do, and even if they do, even if you said, well, we'll pay you a lot more than I don't want the money, I'd rather have a nice quality of life. And there's something in that. There's something that we have to review, but it's a problem that the cost will get passed to the customer. That's the issue.
Absolutely. It's the only way.
Yeah. But it's a difficult thing, because it's like, as minimum wage rises and the cost of living and everything else gets out of control, then you think, right, well, if that's going to be the case, then it's going to be the end consumer. And then they're the one that's going to cry about that, but then also cry about the living wage going up. And it's very difficult. It's a difficult balance to try and keep everybody happy, because I know that really now the restaurants are in, everyone, is under pressure with the rising cost of everything. Nobody's making the kind of anywhere near the money they used to, because they're having to swallow so much of the cost. They can't pass it all on, Because I think if they did, I think people are already shocked. I mean, if they knew the real rise of the cost, it would be, you'd be doubling the menu items, and you just can't do that. And we don't do it as well. So the whole industry as a whole is taking it on the chin a little bit and just weathering the storm and still getting the abuse from the customer, thinking that we're all just making loads of money. And it's like, no, like the costs are just astronomical. Wage bills are doubling, So it's, everybody's under the same pressure. But I think feeling that, and kind of sharing that between everybody and everyone having a bit of a community is an important thing.
No, absolutely. But how do you see the cost? Now, talking about costs, how do you see the short-term future, of the cost in fruits and veg area? Because that's the area that you most knowledgeable about. Do you see these coming down? Probably it's not. It's not on the horizon or going up. Like what do you see there?
It's so difficult because I the way we've kind of said it to ourselves is we have to get used to a new normal. So we have to understand that prices have changed like everything. So there's no idea of it is expensive now and then it will go back to what it was. I don't think it'll ever go back, and I think what's going to happen is we've all just sort of upped the level really. Wages have gone up, cost of living's gone up, prices of things have gone up.
We need to readjust basically.
We need to readjust. But then, there is the emphasis and what's going to happen with, different schemes from the government and the states. An incentive for the farmers is to kind of give them, a bit more money, and they should be getting more, but a bit more money that will hopefully balance out the cost of local produce, and that's really important to us. So you've got the imported produce, which can come from anywhere in the world, Morocco and a lot of Spanish stuff, especially in the summer. We predominantly focus on local, and we focus on local because one, it's a community that we work with these people, just as we work with the personal chefs and the owners of these restaurants, we work with the farmers as well. It isn't just about units for us. It's about the passion of working with people. And with that passion comes an idea that you have a relationship that you can get specific things and you can get better produce. You can control the price more because you're not dealing with the current, drought that was in Spain.
It's a bit more predictable, I guess.
So therefore you can say, look, the prices, it's not going to be as cheap as the Spanish or whatever you were importing at the time, but we've got a consistent price for the summer. And therefore you can set your menu. You can also...
It's important for a chef, really important.
But you can also then, with the idea that if you're going to support local, you should be shouting about it. And not just for your benefit, it's because the consumer wants that. So if you're buying the local, which, we sell a lot of local stuff, the idea of the marketing value of that is huge, because what I do with a lot of chefs is I say, well, look, in the summer, you're getting your tomatoes, you're getting your cucumbers, you're getting your peppers, aubergines, courgettes, all from the same farm, which is La Chasse. And they do an amazing job. They supply Waitrose and they supply a lot of other people. But when you buy that stuff, it's not only just from, a local producer. I can tell you the person, we can go around and see the stuff, you can see it. We were dealing with Bohemia and we were dealing with quite a few people, but I think Bohemia were the first ones. They were asking about the courgette flowers. And we said, okay, well, we can go and speak to JP at La Chasse and say, right, could we get some courgette flowers from you? And then in the end, it was something that a lot of times I would personally go to JP. JP would cut the flowers for me. I would hand deliver them to Callum. And then other people were doing it. And then rather than import them, it's a local product, and what better way than a local product to end is like on a really top end plate. You've got all these amazing restaurants. So it's using these people and then thinking, well, actually, if you don't support them, they're not going to be there for that opportunity. You think, so it's important that you look after them and then they can, return the favor, look after you. We can all collectively work together, and it might not always be the cheapest option, but there's more to...
It's more than that.
There is, especially for top chefs. And, Josie's got so many good restaurants. There's more to it than just chasing pennies, because you chase those pennies, you're only going to end up spending more time going through a bag of baby mix and just getting all the crap out. It's like, you're busy, we're busy. It's like what we try and do is we try and have a very high standard, but keep it as reasonable as possible. We will always have, the lowest markup we can possibly afford, but we're not here to rip people off. But I think the quality is what we're about, and the passion, because the difference between selling fresh produce than other things, like, 10 baked beans or something, that's a unit. You're just going to be haggling with the price. But a lettuce is not a lettuce. Where it comes from, the type of lettuce, how
so much more story behind it.
How fresh it is important. That's the type of thing. How much of that lettuce can you use? How big is it? A lot of the time, because you might think, well, I'm buying a lettuce from him and it's this much, but then it's quarter the size. So there's all these different elements. And if you haven't got strong relationships on both terms, you're not going to have this kind of lovely flow of produce between the chef and kind of, the grower.
But it's crazy how, because you probably never expected to deal with fruits and veg, fresh products, right?
No,
I guess like we're talking, let's say 10 years ago or whatever.
Yes.
And then you go into it and it feels like you are, you are the person, that inherit, well, eventually probably you will inherit it, through your wife and, together we'll work that way. But it feels like, you had your grandparents and, grandparents, working in a farm, because you're so passionate about it. And I like that.
Oh, good.
It's amazing.
Good.
It's amazing. And I think that's, and I think probably you kind of touched just a bit on it, that we probably don't do enough to promote this, almost like proud about, that's local, which I think Genuine Jersey does parts of it, but it's still, I think, a lot more than that can be done, right? And I'm not saying just from their side. I think even restaurants, I think, should be a bit prouder when they serve something local. Some of them are like even putting it in the menu, which I think is amazing. When you see something like local in the menu and you're a tourist and you see in the menu, I'm like, I think it means a lot.
Yeah.
And it should, at least.
Yeah. People come to Jersey to eat Jersey produce. I mean, it's really that simple. If I went to Romania and then you serve me Spanish stuff, I'm like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? I want to come here and I want to see what you eat, and you're going to show me the vegetables that you grow. I think people everybody knows that. It's really that simple. But, it's reminding people. And also, we understand the pressures are there, because in an ideal world, if money was an object, we'd all have, the top of the top stuff. But it's trying to have that balance between making it viable for the farmer to grow it, because it's like the work these guys do. I mean, it's unbelievable. There should be more programs if people kind of need to sort of see what it's like, even spend a day with a farmer, and not a lovely sunny day in July, go on a really crap day, go on a muddy, horrible, rainy on a Monday, and be like, he's got to still do that job. And think, right, now argue the fact that Jersey Royals are such an amount. And you think, do you understand the process into get them to your plate? And the fact that, we're spoilt rotten here with certain produce. And it's like, you have to appreciate how much work and how hard it is to get that. There's certain crops like tender stem broccoli. It cannot be machine harvested. It has to be hand picked. Well, I'm 6'2", so I'm not bending over that tall. But realistically, it's only, a couple of centimeters high. You've got to get right down. And when you see the size of those fields, it's not back garden. And it's like, that's all day. And then you're going to be like, it's really expensive. There's so much love and care. And, I know chefs are generally very passionate about it, but I think if you go to the UK, especially, every restaurant, every good restaurant, really what they will do is they'll say, right, well, they'll have a radius around the restaurant and say, well, everything here is sourced from within this many miles, this borough, this area. We really work hard for that. And I think people like Sport Loco, but they could be doing more. And I think, maybe it's something that I need to sort of reach out to more, because obviously that's where social media comes in. We want to promote the local and push what we've got there and work with the growers, because it's kind of a two-way street. I think it used to be a case of the grower would just turn up and say, this is my, my wares, what would you like to buy? But I think sometimes what can happen is three people might want to grow the same thing. And we're like, well, actually, it'd be better if we had a conversation with the chef and said, look, what are you interested in next
what's
year?
Needed?
Yeah. And then they might go, actually, I'd be really interested if you grew me some nasturtium leaves. That'd be really cool, just as a little thing, because all these people will have them. And I go, a lot of people will buy those, and I've always said to the growers, I said, I'd be really happy to have any meeting with you. If there's anything you're thinking about growing, I will tell you the market value. I'll tell you how much we sold last year and how much we imported. So you can base it on, well, this is a lot. Okay, this is a big product and it's expensive and it'll cost me a lot to grow, but actually there's money there because there's so many products we have here. Like nobody really grows garlic on a commercial scale. And I'm like, I believe it's quite tricky to grow. But you think, well, why? That's such a fundamental thing that people...
It's used pretty much every day.
So I look at the key items and I'm like, why is no one growing that? Why is no one growing this? There's all these areas, but Jersey farming is like a whole other conversation. It's such a difficult industry, especially now, to make money from, that really, even more than chefs, you're running purely on passion.
But do you think it's a bit, because the way I see, you talk about variety, and you said about, okay, let's not grow all the same thing, or let's try to grow according to the demand. Or I think that's actually really important, because then it's predictable for you as a farmer. It's great service for the chef. Everybody wins. Happy days. But do you think it's also in a way detrimental that probably most of the farmers will go for Jersey Royals, because obviously it's the crown of the island? And
It's tough though, isn't it? It's almost like a restaurant saying, right, you're not allowed to serve a steak. You're like, well, I'm going to make my money on that. It's like,
true.
you need that. So, you know, Jersey has an incredible heritage with Jersey Royal. And, you know, I think it's in a bit of a transitional period at the moment. And, you know, but I understand it's a payday because it's the biggest export in Jersey. So therefore, if you mention, there's only so much the local market can take. So most of it is exported. So if you need to be paid, and obviously most of the farmers over here are basically inherited a farm, or they work on the farm that was from their family, because the idea of getting into farming, it's exactly the same as in a restaurant. You can think, oh, I'm going to open a restaurant. It's like, well, you must have a million quid at least just to start and open a door and, you know, really take that risk as well. It's the same with farming. You know, the success rate of just someone starting new, it just doesn't happen really, because it's just such a hard industry. You know, you can do all that work, all of that, and then you can get blight, gone, you know. So it's not just about the hard work. It's also just the knowledge, but just you could have a bad year. And if you have a bad year,
there's so many things that don't depend necessarily on you, right?
Definitely.
And
It's
absolutely.
scary.
And it's also like knowledge. And as you said, you know, if you come from generation to generation, I think it's a bit almost like you feel like a duty that you need to continue, you know, what was passed on to you. And with the restaurants as well, when you mentioned about opening a restaurant, I was talking to Sam from Cafe Spice when he was saying, you know, just because, you know, someone says to you, you know, that you know how to cook, you know, you're good, you know, like your friends or family, it doesn't mean you're ready to open a restaurant.
No.
So it's a lot more to it. And I guess it's the same with farming. Just because you planted a few, you know, strawberries in a pot, it doesn't make you a farmer, I guess.
I'm from my opinion, it seems you need the culinary excellence, but you also need the business management. And a lot of the times, I don't know, maybe it's the idea of being the chef and you feel a bit like under kind of, you know, you're not getting the deserve, you know, not being the restaurant owner, the owner gets all the reward and sits there and just counts all the money, it appears like. But you're like, I'm doing all the bloody work. All the people come to eat my food, so I want the money. But then if you haven't got the business management side, then it's, you know, and it's a really expensive game as well. I mean, you know, the amount of restaurants that fail, and not through them being bad restaurants, just through timing, just through anything, just through trends, just through, you know, the economy now. I'd say from our point of view is you really feel that fine dining is taking the biggest hit at the moment. It really feels that, you know, people kind of are looking more for value. And rather than just saying, you know, I had the most exquisite meal somewhere, they're really talking about the price and the value that they got from that meal. And I think that's more important. So it's less about kind of, you know, the extravagance. It's more just thinking, well, actually, how can you give the customer a really good experience, but actually still not leave feeling, you know, they've had to spend a fortune.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a time, like, well, I remember when I came on the island, there were 3 or 4 Michelin star restaurants. And I don't think there is the right time for 3 or 4 now on the island. I might be wrong, but I'm not saying that necessarily the standard is not there. But then obviously with that, you need to push the prices up because, you know, you already have a standard that you need to keep. You need more chefs, you need everything else becomes more expensive. The expectations are higher. So probably it's not, as you said, fine dining. And maybe the ones that are making it now, which Bohemia is one situation, but not necessarily that they make the money. The hotel probably does.
Yes.
I've not seen obviously what happens.
No,
but that's why usually there's usually the kind of like combination, the way it kind of works. People come for like overnight stays. They also have the dinner, but not necessarily the dinner makes money. The room does.
Yes.
So I think it's probably like that. And that's the biggest kind of like help. If you have one of these that you can lose money on one side and make on the other, then I guess it's manageable. But when you are on a restaurant on your own and trying to, let's say, keep a Michelin star, 2 stars, whatever, that's a really tough job. I wouldn't want to be in someone's shoes now. Genuinely, it must be really difficult.
It doesn't, I mean, I don't know how true this is because obviously, you know, I'm not aware, but, you know, what people say is that there is very few Michelin stars, 2, 3, 4 Michelin star restaurants that actually are profitable. It's more, you generally have someone that is the owner that has enough money to kind of cover it and just basically do okay.
You
know?
make money from other areas.
I think, like you say, maybe when they're paired up with a hotel, maybe that's the trick. But if you're just a standalone restaurant, and you're just dealing with those covers, there's few covers, and the work that goes into it, the team that's involved, and the quality control, you know, because we supply Callum, and you know, I know the amount of stuff he can go through, and you think a lot of that time he's buying double that he needs just so he can refine down and take only the best from that crop, you know, whether it be, you know, really expensive mushrooms, he'll buy much more than he needs, but actually it's just to make sure he's got the perfect mushrooms. And I mean, that cost, you know, just to maintain that level that they do is just, you know, it's a lot. It's another pressure.
And you know it, because obviously when you come with the bill, you know, it'll be like, man, I hope that you get something out of this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not that, it's just the way it works, you know, you get invoiced by somebody else, you need to pass it on and plus make a bit of profit.
It's interesting because it's like you have the different sides of it, and then you speak to all different people, and it's a bit like bands, you know, when you get bands, you either, you know, when they get older rockers, they've either sold out and then they've done the adverts and they've made loads of cash, or they've stayed true to their roots and stayed true to the punk roots. They don't sell out. And, you know, either is jealous. The person that sold out is jealous of the person who stayed authentic, and the authentic person said, well, you're loaded. And I think being a chef and running a restaurant is the same. You know, you can be an artist, but generally saying your market's going to be small and you're not really going to make any money because you're going to follow that, you know, artistry, and your covers are going to be small because the amount of percentage of people in Jersey who really appreciate that sort of level is so small. So you're not going to make the big bucks, or you go super commercial. You know, one of the places that we always talk about, you know, with chef friends of mine is the Burger Bar on the Avenue. And like that place is just like money printing machine, you know.
The kiosk.
Yeah, the kiosk. It's never got people not stood outside it. And I mean, you know, that is still hospitality. That's still, you know, takeaway. But it's like that place just churns out burgers all day long. I've never driven past it and there isn't a queue. And I mean, that's a dream business, but no one aspires to own that as a chef. But then as you get older, you start looking and thinking, oh, you'd love to own that place.
I think it also comes with, you know, when you're young, you'll be more like crazy. You want those accolades. You want. I think you do, and probably it's the right time to do it, right? Because you're not gonna when you're older, probably. And I'm not saying that, you know, even if you're old. We had a lady here on the podcast. I'm not sure if you know, and I'm not saying that she's old because she doesn't look the age, but still she's. I don't know if you know KT Kombucha, the business in Guernsey that makes kombucha drinks.
Oh, I don't know her, but I've heard
okay, so
know
she started the business at 60 years old.
60?
60.
Wow.
And something totally different for Channel Islands. Okay, it's a hit. I mean, it works. You know, she's thinking about expanding to the UK. It's crazy. It's really getting big. But, you know, at that age, usually you are like, no, I just want something safe. I just want something that I know is going to work. Not like getting into something that, well, you know, if you ask 100 people, you know what kombucha is, or at least years back, you know, when she started a few years back, you know, they wouldn't even know. Like, I didn't know till like recently. Yeah. I mean, many people probably didn't. So it's crazy, you know.
Still people don't, do they? Yeah. I mean, yeah, because that's the thing. It's kind of, you know, I always look at it as like, when you go to the UK, you go to the UK or you go to Europe and you go to these restaurants, they can be amazing, but then the flow of people they have through them is huge. You know, you go to London, you know how many, 8 million people there. So you've got these really little artisan, amazing restaurants, and you think you have the same percentage of people that appreciate that in Jersey as you do in London, but you've got 8 million people to 100,000. So it's difficult to run a business based on that. So you're going to have to kind of balance it with the idea of being a bit more commercial, you know, appealing to a wider audience, because otherwise you're going to end up very narrow lane, you know, especially the finer dining places. I just think that's really tricky now, you know, and they're the ones that I think are kind of thinking, right, well, we need to diversify. We need to make sure there's deals on, there's this.
Or becoming more affordable, or set menus, or
I think so.
Bigger portions.
Yeah. Well, just the idea, you know, it's more of a casual dining experience. And then, you know, there's a beauty in that as well, because if you can hit the sweet spot, which is casual dining, but then still elegant, people feel this kind of, when I'm here for lunch break, I'm here for an hour, bam, next person, rather than come here and you may pay 20% more, but actually you think, well, I'm going to be here for 5 hours, 4 hours sometimes. And you think, but the other restaurant was more casual and they were gone in an hour. It's a different way of, operating. And if you can get it where you still feel happy with the food is quicker. And I think also, linking with the kind of social media age, it's people expect a lot more change. There's real strong institutions in Jersey, which the menus don't change. Everybody knows what they're going for. They have their favorite thing in this restaurant, the Caponina, and even places like the Dolphin and things like that. They're just the way they always were.
Yeah.
But then now the younger restaurants, I think, are realizing you can't do that. And it can't even be like seasonal menus. It has to be like, no, there's always new things, because you're already bored of the thing that you've
to make
seen.
It interesting.
Yeah, because you've seen it 10 times on Instagram. So therefore I'm like, well, what are you doing now? Because I had that last time. My attention span is shorter. I want something different this time. So there's that energy which is there, which kind of, it's the same as people, and younger generations especially are expecting more and more movement, and it's not set.
Yeah, absolutely. How is your relationship with the restaurants? Because now you talk like restaurant owners, chefs. You mentioned, Callum, and yeah, he's a great chef. I mean, we're the only Michelin star chef we've got at this point that owns a star now.
Yeah.
Not that there are others, that have been through the situations, but they're just probably on the way to get it, or different kind of situations. But how is your relationship with the chefs overall? How do you communicate with them? How do you keep in touch? What's the relationship overall?
I would say we're very proud. We kind of pride ourselves on not having reps. We don't do reps. I think because we have we specialize. So we specialize just in fresh produce, and over the years we've always had people, I've got this idea, well, you should sell this, you should sell that, you should do oils, you should do, pastas, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't fit with the brand. I think the idea of specializing in what you do is something that kind of we're very passionate about. And because one, it keeps us busy enough just to deal with the fresh. But if you specialize, people know what you do. They're very clear of, if it's fresh, then we will either sell it or we can source it. It allows for kind of a sort of more friendly, natural line of communication. I'm not coming in trying to upsell and sell you new products that I've just done, because it's like, it's fresh produce. I'm not going to patronize you and tell you what is fresh and what's not. So I know that, the goal would be that anytime you think, well, actually, we're interested in a new product, we're interested in fresh stuff, well, we'll go to Homefields. We'll chat to them guys, because that's the home of fresh produce, but also the home of local where possible really is our unofficial tagline, because we work with about 20 to 30 local growers at any one time, and we kind of have an open door policy. So it's not about the scale or the size of the grower. It's more
keep bringing it
in, because sometimes you might say, right, well, I want, this many kilos of beetroot, and actually you could have 3 different growers that has been collated by us. That's all local, but is local growers.
You give them a market basically.
We do.
Otherwise,
it's a marketplace for them, because a lot of the time the growers, chefs and growers are quite similar. They are quite isolated people. You're either in your kitchen, or you're in your field, or you're in your tractor. You're not so much going out a lot, and you have the time to go and really sell your wares. So the part we play is connecting the two. You've got very passionate people at both ends, and you're connecting them up. So it's being that kind of that middle link, and making sure that the chefs especially know what's available. Because about a couple of years ago, we created a big chart, and it was a seasonality chart for Jersey to say, right, what vegetables and fruits are in season and what month they're in season. So, a lot of the kitchens have these. And it just shows you to say, right, well, in June, these are all the vegetables that are in season. And it just allows you to think, okay, well, if I want seasonality, okay, what products can I get? And it's like, well, you can get these products. So, they're available. And then you have fun saying, well, actually, I think someone's growing this. And, there's the idea of saying, well, this person's going to grow a very small amount of this. So I can't push it on social media. I can't put it on my website. But I know that what would be really great is if I gave it to the people that are going to do the most exciting thing with it. So I can call up various chefs and say, right, look, I've got a very small amount of this stuff here. Would you like some of it? And they'll be like, yeah. And then they go and create cool stuff. And then the growers are excited, because I'll take back pictures and say, you need to go and eat dinner there because they've done this with your stuff. And they'll say, wow, that's really cool. We did a promotional video with La Chasse, and it was the life of the courgette flower, to say, well, starts off as a courgette, but then it's the flower first. And you think that flower then ended up on a Michelin star plate. And you think that is just such an amazing journey for that flower to then be stuffed and things like that. And what an amazing thing, with local produce. So it's Michelin star level, and what better endorsement for local, produce than that.
No, absolutely. And, you touch about, local first. And obviously, yeah, this is the priority. But how much is coming from outside the island? Is there like a percentage? Because we keep talking about, especially since COVID, more people were like, well, we need to be self-sufficient, and on an island, you can just do as much. It's always going to be like a bottleneck. It's going to be a cap where, that's how much we can grow. The rest of the land is for something else, or not everybody's doing farming, So in the end, you're still going to end up buying from outside, or people want something more exotic. So you're not going to be able to grow it here in the first place.
But everybody's got a plane here. So when you've gone abroad, you've gone away and you come back and you fly over Jersey and you see how green Jersey is, we all think Jersey's getting really built up. But then if you really just stop the next time you're in a plane and look how many fields are there, the problem is not the land is there. The problem is people not wanting to pay the price for it because the supermarkets have just got so incredibly cheap, and it's also just the people and the farmers not being there, and we work with a lot of farmers that are kind of an older generation. And I always say to them, why do you not get your kids involved?
No,
it's not that. It's they push their kids to an easier, better life, in their eyes.
Because they know how hard it is.
They know how hard it is. They know it's such a gamble. And also, I think a lot of the old school farmers, they didn't have a choice. If you were a son of a farmer, it was just an expectation. And you were just like, as soon as legally I can take you out of school, you will be coming on the farm. And I think a lot of them grew up loving it, but I think a lot of them think, well, I want to give my children the choice. If they want to come with me, they can. But if you don't, I will support you in doing whatever you like, So, and maybe there's different times where farming went through, a really bad period. So therefore they were like, actually, that isn't a good time to kind of suggest farming. But I think, one of the main causes for us is the supermarkets. Yeah, and I get questions about it all the time. Why can I go to the supermarket and I'm paying 70p for a cauliflower and yours are like, 180? The reason is because the amount of money that we charge is true market value. So we pay that, we're getting that, and we have a very low markup that we put on our produce, but it's representative of that day. So if there is a blight, if there is, the storm that happened recently, it knocked out a lot of the local collies. So then we had to pay really high amount for the French collies because in England they had the storms as well. So a lot of their collies got knocked out too. So
it went up.
Further, and they go crazy. So people are like, why are you charging so much? I was like, it was not us making the money at all. It's just, we stopped selling them for a while, but it's because there's not enough people growing, and if you look at the supermarkets, they set a price at the beginning of the year. So they fix a price with the farmer, generally to the detriment of the farmer. They're not doing well out of it. The supermarkets keep it cheap. So when you walk in the door, the reason the fresh produce is the first thing you see is because it's the freshest, realest, most colourful thing you can see. And they will generally sell most of their fruit and vegetables at a loss to get you in to buy
something
the ready
else.
meals. Yeah, they'll make the money on the ready meals and the tins and all the other the stuff.
Well, that's why they also move things around. So
that's it.
You move around and buy more, and it's a whole strategy behind it.
That's it. So when you realize that, you think, yes, you can take advantage of cheap bananas, but everybody sells bananas at a loss because everyone buys bananas. So therefore, if you think, well, if I'm going to go to Waitrose because they got the cheapest bananas, you'll probably go and buy the rest of your shop there. And you think, so if I lose a bit of money on bananas, then I know you'll come and buy your tins and your cereals and your bread. So you think, well, we'll lose money, but then that leaves everybody here and all the all the suppliers and all, especially our farm shop, in a bad situation because we look worse.
Yeah,
when really
you look like you want to get rich on it.
We look like we've got a high markup when really it's those prices are dropping constantly. So you're battling with something that you can't even begin. It's a far bigger scale, especially with the billions of pounds in the supermarkets. So you don't try and fight it. All we can do is fight the good fight for local produce first and try and have more of a demand for it. So if I can kind of drum up more support from the chefs and say, look, I want you to support local, and I want to make sure that if you want to support local, I will get this stuff for you. Then I can feed that back to farmers, and then hopefully, you'll get more. And we've seen it a few times where we've seen certain people grow certain things and said, well, what do you want me to grow? And then we work with a guy called Cordian. He grows a lot of microgreens and he grows different things. And he then grows specifically for the chef. So he's just open. He'll say, right, look, what do you want me to grow? And in the end, now he grows a lot of all the micro herbs that we grow. And we used to import them. And when they stopped producing them, when COVID happened, because they said, look, it's been knocked on the head because it's only for the finer kitchens, we asked him to grow them. And he said, I can do that. He grew them over here. And then we were able to still supply it. And in the end now, that's a revenue stream for him, is to grow the micro herbs. And even be able to be adaptable to say, right, look, we're getting requests for this. Can you grow that? Yep, I'll give it a go. And that's the amazing thing. And then you're working locally and you're connecting all these people, but you're being responsive to not just turn up with too much stuff. It's what does the chef want? And then what can you grow? You're going to win because you can say it's local as well. Put local on your menu. People are going to be happy to come to Jersey and eat local produce. That's a premium thing to offer. But also be part of the community, because when the boats are cancelled, you're still going to get you're still going to get your stuff. And that's why we need to think about it. It's like paying for insurance. You pay for insurance for the worst case scenario. And you think, by working together, we all cover each other. So the boat can be cancelled. Well, I'm not going to get my mangoes, but I'll get a large portion of my vegetables.
But do you think the state is aware of this? I mean, I guess they are, but do you think they're aware that, this is really important to keep it, because as you said, it's the best plan B you'll ever have in situations like this? Do you think it's kind of like a priority in their mind, thinking that, we got to help the farmers, we got to come with those to pay part of the costs, that they have? Is as far as is there something in their mind that they want to do good?
You know what? I would say that I think most people of all levels would agree it's the right thing to do. But when it comes down to really putting the money behind it, that's the difference. And I think it's really similar. Farmers and chefs are very similar. The hours are just ludicrous. And if you really tally it up and say, right, take your work ethic and take your hours you're willing to work a week and apply that in any other industry, you're going to be earning really good money. And it's like, why you do need all of these things? And it's like, it's the passion that drives, these two kind of industries. And really, it shouldn't need to be that. It shouldn't be that, you have to have that passion because the money's not going to be there. The money should be there. Yeah. It's such an important thing to do.
It should be a balance, right?
They want to feed us. So it's like, why would we not want to support these two industries to say, you want to provide us with local produce that's healthy, we know where it's come from, it's traceability. You're going to be here to support us if there's another outbreak of COVID, or we can't get the boats in, there's going to be massive sourcing of food issues, which there was. You've got chefs that are talented, that want to stay on island, that want to cook really good food. Both these professions should be highly kind of, paid, just so they're supported, so we have that infrastructure in place,
Do you think that technology will help, with almost like balance this world, whether we're talking in a staffing issues area, whether we're talking in producing more efficient crops, or whether from now on whether he's already doing it? How do you see technology having an impact, in your opinion, in farming, or even in your business?
Well, in our business, first and foremost, we've moved to digital online ordering. So what used to happen is every order would be called in, and it was good. But what happened is, you'd be dealing with technology there, which would be a nightmare, where people were calling on their mobile phone at 2:00 in the morning. There'd be a bad signal, and you'd lose the order, and you'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. I've got no idea.
And then you call and there's nobody there.
In north of the island. Yeah, it's too late. So you miss it. So then the order's got to go out at 5:00 in that morning. So it's like, you need that order. Technology is really good because with price being so much more important than it ever was, you now have access to live prices. So you're kind of showing your cards a little bit. There used to be an agreement, which was the beginning of every season, you'd go around with your price list, you'd hand it over and you'd say, oh, here's my price list. Great, shake a hand. That would be the person you buy your supplies from for that summer, the main season. And I think those days now really are gone. People kind of have loyalty, but it's through kind of standards, it's through quality, it's through service. And I think, but you also understand that generally most of the big restaurants, hotels will be using most suppliers, across the board. And I think that's a way just to be, okay, well, now it's going to be about price. So if you've got access to live prices online, that means that you can see that, obviously, be competitive. You've got to be obviously truthful to your price. So it's not a handshake. It's more just checking daily, I think for us, it's important as well. Price is an important thing. Technology is important, obviously, but I think it's important for us to sort of to specialize in what we do, because if I go to a restaurant and they sell sushi, they sell hot dogs, they sell burgers, they sell pizzas, they sell fish and chips, I don't know, I'm not going to go to that restaurant.
Absolutely.
I want to go to people that are really passionate about what they do and they specialize. And I think the idea of trying to diversify too much and be everything to everybody,
spreading yourself too thin,
it just means you can't really be across on everything, and you're trying too much to kind of concentrate maybe on the profit side of things. It's more for us an important point, because Kath and myself are the people kind of running the show now. It's really kind of important to us to lead with the passion for the produce. So it's important for us to keep that in our minds, and to not try and kind of diversify or go off, or and just be this solid brand of fresh
and
produce.
I think that's also separating you quite well from the competition, because if, let's say, someone thinks about fruits and veg, they think first about you, and then probably they move on down the line. So I think that's quite important, as you said. And it's also, if, let's say, they want to have a conversation about fruits and veg, about anything, they know they're going to you, and you're going to have the answer. So I think it's also about that. And I think that's how you almost eliminated the need of reps, because people know that, what you do, people know what they can find. And it's almost like you can look at the chart more or less, as you said, with the vegetables, and be like, okay, January, what we've got, February, what we've got. And it's almost like, I know I'm going to find it there, because that's what they do. That's what they specialize in. So I do believe that's how I kind of started what I'm doing, because I understand hospitality more than other areas. I'm not saying perfectly, because I only worked for 6 years comparing to other people that done it for 30, 40 or whatever. But even, the social media management, the videography side, I do it for hospitality only because I feel like, almost we talk the same language, and it's a powerful thing when you specialize into something. And I do believe in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I think, we're lucky now to be the largest sort of provider of fresh produce in the island. And I think we've only got that way by being focused on the passion. I think, we have to import a lot of stuff because obviously, there's no one growing mushrooms here. There was for a while, I think, especially in Guernsey. But the amount of space you need to grow these crops on the scale that we need to, sow is just huge. Land is just too much for premium, really. So we import a lot. We have as much local as we can, but obviously the rest is, a lot of the fruits, a lot of everything you can think of. You can not grow pineapples here until climate warming kicks in a bit more. But it is important for us to kind of think, we want to lead with that passion first, really. That's the number one thing, more than, hopefully, profitability will come because we are passionate about what we do. And I think we run it in an authentic way, because I believe anyway that having a solid relationship with people, my phone, really, my main point of contact is WhatsApp, and I think that's the best, most instant way. It's the least hassle for you. I don't want to send you an email to sit at a computer and because that's such a big part of chefs' lives now, which I know most of them hate. So
You're right.
Yeah. So if I can sit there and say, right, I've got this in, take a picture, send you the picture. I don't even need to see any words. I just say in today, and they'll be like, yeah, great, brilliant, send it to me. And then it can, sometimes before it even gets unloaded off a van, it's already in another van to go off somewhere. And I think that idea of that movement to say, well, I know there's a steady flow of this, that can happen. This person has been growing, the only one going to supply us. So therefore it can go there. But also in the idea of it with the imported stuff. So we work with, quite a few big suppliers in the UK and further afield. But one of the main ones we use is in Covent Garden. So they were really good at Instagram. So what they'll do is, and because they were sick of people like myself bothering them, say, what have you got in fresh? What's coming in locally now? What have you got from France? What have you got from Paris or from anywhere else? They just update their Instagram and just say, look at that. So I forward that to all the chefs and say, look, just keep an eye on that. Anything you see there, any expensive, exciting things coming through, I'll always get your price first, because some of the prices can be like eye-watering. Because, these guys deal with Claridge's, they deal with, a lot of the top hotels and restaurants in London, and they will have stuff before anybody else. They'll have cherries, completely out of season, and the price will just be crazy. But there's some people in London that will pay that. But, if it's a specific thing that is really going to make your menu, then we can get it. And it's always, there's always available to get these sort of things. So it's working with these kind of further afield, exciting places, but also with the local. The combination is what's been a winning kind of combination for us.
Do you think that most of these relationships that you kind of like try to keep connected to with the chefs, having good relationships with your customers overall, would be diluted to a degree if, let's say, you were part of a big corporation and not a family-owned business as you are now?
Yes. I mean, I think, we don't have shareholders. We don't have, people that are above us that sit in an office that kind of tell us, about the way we should run our business. I think we run it in a sense very organically. Catherine and myself are there every day. We work with a very tight-knit management team. But like I said before, all our employees are very close to us. They all really care about Homefields. And I think that is, it's sadly rarer than you think, because, any good business, I think for a long period of time, you need to operate like that. And I think, for us, it's important that we're family owned, because I think that means that we've got nobody telling us what to do, how to run it. Profit is not the number one priority, which it is for most businesses. We believe if we do a good job, if we provide a good service, if we offer the best produce, then, things will look after themselves. And I think that authenticity, and especially because I can speak freely, and I can speak freely with chefs, not worried about if my boss is going to say something, we have that idea that we also choose who we want to work with, and I think one of the things I've said to a few chefs is, look, I don't work for you. We are in partnership here. The customer is out there. So if we have a civil and a good relationship together, I will come out and I'll kind of deliver something to you if you get desperate. But if you're rude, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna bend over, and kind of go the extra mile. And I think that partnership builds strong relationships. And I think that's, on such a small island, you need to be understanding that it is about relationships. And I think we've seen other companies from the UK come over here and try and muscle in, and you've realized they've not done what they thought they were going to do. And the reason they didn't do that is because the relationships were so strong and people had personal relationships with people. And they're like, well, yeah, the prices may be cheaper, but at the end of the day, I've known this person. He's never let me down.
Trust as well.
Yeah, I trust this person. So they've done a really good job. I'm going to need a reason to leave them other than price, and I think that's a really important thing anywhere, but mostly in Jersey.
And also I have a comparison, which I don't know, probably other people have it as well. And I'm not sure if I seen it somewhere or it came in my mind, because obviously these days with social media, you see so many things that you almost think like some of them belong to you, but it's almost like a big corporation or a huge company. It's like Condor Ferry, it moves slow, and with you, like the operator, and being there, in the communication, direct communication, and quick, fiery, is almost like a speedboat. Bang, 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 let's do it. It's you need it. This is the price provided. Happy days. I'm happy that I can help you. Business as usual. And I think that's really important, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna ask my manager, and the manager, I'm gonna ask the director, and we need to we need to evaluate, we'll get back to you, this is all slowing down. And in this industry, you need to be quite snappy.
Do you know what though, that I'd say what I'm really lucky is that Homefields, like I said, was started in 1969, and it's Trevor, it was Vernon, his dad, then Trevor, has a really good name in the industry. And the people that are slightly older all remember Trevor. Really, he's my father-in-law, but really solid person, and I think he built the really solid foundations of just trustworthy businessman, and then Catherine's come in, same sort of ethics. And I think, Catherine and myself now can benefit from this really long, solid history. And I mean, like any brand, like any business, you can't build it overnight. You need that amount of time to just have that kind of being part of the community, the island kind of community. So we're really lucky now that we can be dynamic, but we also try and stick to the principles of remembering that, Rome wasn't built in a day. Things are going to change, things are going to move all the time, but it's to remember that, to be steady and to not be too volatile. I think transparency is a huge thing. The idea that we kind of work with the chefs to kind of give the best possible price, but there's no real, there's no tricks, there's no anything. It is what it is. And I think, that's important, that people trust you as people, and I think that's something we would never want to lose. I think there's no idea that me and Catherine could retire because it's, Paul and Catherine from Homefields. It's like, we are what Homefields is. So the idea of, it's never going to be for sale. We see ourselves as custodians of Homefields. So you had Catherine's granddad, you had her dad, and then you've got, me and Kat running it now. And it's like, well, what are we going to do in our time with it? We're very lucky. One of the main reasons I left my previous kind of career in design and marketing was because you've got a really great opportunity to do something really great in your community. You've got the potential to sell fruit and vegetables to people. It's not Coke, it's not cigarettes, it's not sweets. It's only a good thing. Right? Yeah, but only health, only health, only working with local farmers, only working with local people, and obviously we have to import stuff, but you're only selling fresh produce, which is such an amazing thing to try and sell. So it's win-win. It's like the more you can sell, the more people you can connect, the more fruit and vegetables, you're getting on people's plates. It's such a great thing to kind of put my marketing kind of background towards, No,
absolutely. And I feel like, you got all these great advice probably from your father-in-law and everything, that came with his reputation, and you're trying to continue it probably at the same way or even higher, going higher than that. How do you see the next generation after you?
Well, we've got 2 daughters. And I mean, like I said, with the farmers, your dream is that your children grow up to kind of take on your business. I mean, the chances are always slim. There's a million jobs out there. You never know. I mean, there'll be no pressure from us. I mean, the one thing that'll be important to us is when they're only young now, but when they're older, they'll work in the farm shop. They'll work with us, they'll see how the family business operates because they see myself and Catherine working every day. They understand we love what we do, but we also work really hard, and they'll come with us. I do think about it. I wonder what's going to happen in the next kind of idea, because the way the industry is now, things are constantly moving. We're very lucky. We've got a really successful wholesale business, but we've also got a farm shop. We've got some really great projects in mind in the future to do with growing, to do with community-based growing projects that, we want to work with the kind of top restaurants here that might want specialist things and grow them specifically, knowing what we know of the industry, rather than just rely on just the farmers to grow the big things. We might have, a tunnel that might grow certain types of herbs and certain type of specialist stuff. We've got foraging
They're just
plans.
probably for a few restaurants,
yeah,
but if it's needed, why not produce it?
And enjoy that fact, So the idea that, we've got ideas of having space for people to come and use, and because we've got, a series of fields. So there's all these different projects. So the future for me is diverse. I think that's the way the whole industry is, isn't it? It's about diversifying. It's about kind of having a lot of different things rather than just having, all your eggs in one basket, really. It's about, looking at the bigger picture. I mean, we've got the retail side. The retail side is really successful, with Lucas Brother Farm Shop, ending now. I mean, that's another great farm shop gone. There's not very many left. And I think if people don't use them, they're going to lose them, unfortunately. And it's something that everybody loves, but then unfortunately convenience is always going to win. And I understand it, but it's a really important thing to do for the consumer, as well as the kind of, obviously we get the chefs in, but there's all those different elements to it. So I think for us, the next real generation, I don't know. I'd hope it'd take it on and do its own thing. I want them to have the freedom to do what they want, because we've been very lucky with my father-in-law to kind of have the reins and go, well, look, it's your time, carry on and take it in your direction, and then we'll be adaptable for our generation, because every generation's got its, well, we know the sweet spot. You can see, well, that's where things are going. You just feel a bit like fine dining's on decline, but this is on the up, and people are really back interested in local, where, you know, older generations, local was just, you know, I think taken for granted, and of course you use
part
local.
of the daily life.
And that's where it should be. And now it's become this kind of like, it's almost organic. It's like a finer product. It's like, oh wow, it's worth speaking about. And I think trying to produce more local stuff is a really important thing, to get more local produce on a plate. You know, if we could just start to think, if every plate had at least one local thing on, you know, and the idea of, rather than just saying, well, we've got asparagus on the menu, that's what's on there. You think, well, why don't you have, you know, seasonal greens, and you move with the seasons. You know, England and Jersey being part of it, I think is a little bit stuck in its ways. I think if you go to most of Europe, they're going to work with the seasons. You're not going to go somewhere and get things out of season. Then they're going to look at you and think, well, no, you work with whatever you have around you. And that's what I think is the challenge. And I think that should be back in more restaurants, and you kind of, so you should be seeing more of that, really, and less imported stuff.
No, absolutely. I mean, as less as we can, I guess, right? Because again, there'll be stuff that we still need to bring onto the island. Paul was amazing. I loved it. It was great. Okay. Genuinely, you know, all the conversations and everything, you know, the passion that you have for it. And as I said, you know, it feels like your side of the family was in farming for like, as long as Jersey existed, which is great. You know, it's not, I guess it's not hard to, it's not easy to almost like feel like we inherited that, you know, from your family, although it's from your wives. You almost feel like it almost feels like you've been there forever.
Oh, good. we work really well together. We balance each other out. You know, I think I'm the one that is the chatty one. That's why I take.
Well, but that's why you talk to the chefs.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, you've got the communication. It's really important.
Exactly it. No, yeah, my wife can't stand doing those bits, but she's the, you know, the powerhouse that kind of runs the office and is there, and it's just, you know, we're a really good team. But I think at the core of it, the thing that bonds us is just trying to remain authentic and trying to remain, you know, passionate, really, because, you know, you're selling fresh produce. It's such nice things to look at every day. You go in and you're seeing it and it's lovely stuff, you know? So, and then you get to enjoy it, you know, we love going out. My 2 young children, you know, they love going to restaurants. It's one of the favorite things we do. And I think, you know, they're going to be part of hospitality in some part or the other, because they know so many chefs. We're all about, and it's like, you know, that's kind of such a nice thing. You know, there's never a time that we go out and we don't speak to the chefs and we don't see people and kind of, you know, get really excited about it, because it's just, it's such an amazing, passionate industry to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. For people that want to know more about you and what future plans are, when the future plans are coming and everything else, where they can find you on social.
Well, I've got a website, homefields.je. We've got Instagram and Facebook. The Facebook's mainly the farm shop, and the Instagram is mainly the wholesale. Just search for Homefields and you'll find us on there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I hope that more people, you know, buy local and, you know, and support local businesses, because some of them will not exist if this is not. It's just difficult time now.
Yeah, definitely. It is. You can feel the shifts, you know, happening, and I think it is really a time now to kind of everybody to look after it. It's like the central market, you know, if we don't start using those people in there, they're going to be gone, and everyone's going to be sad. But you think, but you can't walk through there and get a punnet of strawberries every, you know, once a summer and think it's just going to hang about. It's like, we need to look after each other to keep these things here, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much.